like our bluefish, our crevalle jacks, the big ones who are predatory fish that tend to eat other fish, most of them are already done eating for the day, but the feeding is still far from over. So now the action is just moving further down towards the bottom and towards our shipwreck, and it's moving from the really big animals down to the smaller creatures. So right now, a lot of the creatures that are just starting to have their lunch are the grunts. Those are the little fish, most of them in the range of 1 to 2 hands in size. And the grunts, like our yellow and black striped porkfish here, or like those cottonwicks, the one with the one long black stripe all the way down the back, they get their name because those types of fish make a really weird grunting sound. They actually will grunt like little pig noises at each other to communicate, and one very cool behavior you might see them do at feeding time is sometimes they will open up their mouths, and then with their mouths open, they will headbutt each other. And that is another way they communicate. That's one of their territorial displays when they're fighting over who gets to eat on what part of the shipwreck. So now, a lot of the big pieces of food were already gone for a couple of minutes. A lot of the little bits of krill have disappeared now too into fish's stomachs. And now the food is getting even smaller and smaller and smaller into food bits that are so small that if a person looks at them, it's really hard to tell whether it is actually food for the fish or not. And especially, it's very hard to tell what that little fleck was, whether it was a little bit of fish or a little bit of krill or a little bit of gel food. Even though it's really hard for us to tell what is going on with those little bits of food, the fish has some awesome senses that help them to know what's good to eat and what is not. So they have great senses of smell, a lot of them, which helps them to figure out which little bits of food they should be eating and which things are not food at all, but rather little bits of sand or little bits of waste from other fish. So the great sense of smell helps them to eat little things that it's hard to discern by sight, but sometimes that sense of smell can trick them in the wild into eating things that are not food at all. A lot of these little fish like to eat algae and tiny plant things and little photosynthetic things that grow on hard surfaces, and in fact we get a lot of algae growing on our shipwreck, so we have divers in